if you have a good use case, it's really, I think valuable to try out and just start building that solution. And then if you in the early phases, you kind of end up with the situation that the performance is not for some reason good enough for a production use case. I mean, it's the real great part in these AI solutions that maybe if you wait, just wait a few months or half a year or something like that. So that could then enable that solution to be brought forward. So I think for that reason, it's important to start building today,
Yes.
because it makes things so much faster when you have some initial building blocks in place when there happens certain type of leap in model performance again. And that then enables you to bring certain solutions to production.
Welcome to the Agent Workforce podcast. This is episode number 21. I'm Kristiina. I'm here today with my co-host Niko Lehtonen, AI Solution Architect at Digital Workforce. We have a special episode today, so we also are joined by Antti Parviainen, Senior AI Agent Developer working at Digital Workforce. Welcome, Antti.
Thank you. Good to be on board.
Fantastic. Yeah. And in a moment, I'll give you do a short introduction of yourself. But in today's special episode, we will share some news updates from the world. But for the most part, we'll be talking about building AI agents and in particular, Agent Workforce solution by Digital Workforce. But before we go to the news flash, Antti, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Sure thing. My name is Antti Parviainen, and I joined Digital Workforce April this year. Been solely focusing on building Agent Workforce, the family of agents for the insurance industry. So it's been a really interesting journey to bring this product and offering to life.
Indeed. And we introduced Agent Workforce. Actually, it was a special episode as well where Niko had a chat with Karli Kalpala, who's head of strategy and leading the AI agent business for Digital Workforce. And that was episode 10, in case you want to refer back to that at some point. But hey, before we move into building these actual AI agents and how do you do that and what do you do in that context, Antti, let's share a couple of news which I've picked that I wanted to share with our audience. And let's start it off with some research data. So we also referred here and there some new research or studies coming out. And we also talked about the MIT, quite, I would say, controversial study that came out some months ago and took a lot of waves online, I guess. But now there's a new study, and this is from University of Pennsylvania and Wharton. And some of you may follow Professor Ethan Mollick online. He's probably the most well-known AI professor out there online. But this is now a study that's looking into the use of GenAI in enterprises. And it's something that they've conducted now in 3 years in a row. And there are some key findings that we can notice. This data is from June, July this year. And they have interviewed, I think it was 600 leaders from different industries with different backgrounds. And as said, they have also data from 2023 and 2024. So it's good to compare that, how things have changed. But maybe a few key findings from here is that 82% of enterprise decision makers now use GenAI weekly, which is up from 37% in 2023. And with 46% are using GenAI daily in enterprises. So we are seeing the use of GenAI really moving into daily habits among enterprises. And what's also quite striking is that 3 out of 4 enterprises are already seeing positive returns of GenAI investments, with 72% of leaders now tracking ROI metrics such as productivity, profitability, and throughput. So there's now, with this particular study, there's definitely data that it's not just useless or not hard to prove the real outcomes type of tools anymore, but these are in real action as of today. Also, what's kind of noteworthy here maybe is that they found two of the biggest challenges were related to like recruiting people with Gen AI skills, and also lack of training resources were ranked as like top barriers. So for that, I of course want to advertise our agentacademy.ai learning environment, where we have helped many people in the business world to get to know to agentic AI and so on. So go and check out those courses if you haven't done so yet. Any comments on this study? You may have just heard about this for the first time, or anything you want to reflect on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can say from my side that it's very hard to do anything or go anywhere without seeing AI being used or being implemented, whether you're surfing the net or whether you're looking at, discussions online and so on. So it almost feels like 46% is a low number in many ways. But then again, we are in our IT tech bubble. So it's a very different type of world to many other kinds of fields. It'll be interesting to see where that number goes to in the next year, when there's even more implementations across all industries and it becomes more clear what kind of help can AI have, and it's allowed to be giving to different people in different industries.
For sure. And maybe let's pick up there's one slide or one content piece about agents and how organizations, these that took part in the study, are adopting AI agents and what's the adoption rate. It's being said that 58% of enterprise decision makers say their organizations are using AI agents in some way. And you can also find out what agents are doing currently, what type of things, what are the main benefits, and so forth. But I'm expecting the agentic part to be more widely covered in the next year's release. So that's for the study. Okay, another piece I wanted to bring up here is this was a live session with Sam Altman and then two of OpenAI research. One is called Jakub Paczkowski, I don't know how to pronounce that, but he's the OpenAI chief scientist, and Wojciech Zaremba, co-founder and scientist at OpenAI. So a live stream that you can find on YouTube, which was published 8 days ago, where they discuss the future of organization and research and product and infrastructure. And they lay out their path and their ambition to publish AI researcher. So that's something all the AI labs are looking after, and they are like laying out the timeline when they are expecting to see the real AI research. And they are saying that the AI research intern would be available, quite capable AI research intern, as they frame it, would be available already September next year, so in less than 12 months. And also fully automated AI researcher, they are estimating that could be coming out March of 2028. So they also note that that date is being almost 5 years to the month after the launch of GPT-4. But we all know that all the labs are after these really reproducing the AI research, or the researchers and data scientists with the help of AI. So we'll see where this takes us. But yeah, I think that's for the news part, unless you had, Niko, anything to share, and we can move on to the real interesting part of this episode.
I'll just quickly mention that there's been some news and happenings around agentic modes for browsers and so on, and how they do shopping online, like Amazon sent a cease and desist letter to Perplexity for Perplexity's agentic mode not identifying as an agent when it's accessing Amazon's website to purchase things and so on. And there's going to be interesting discussions in the near future, especially around how these things should be working. And it will be interesting to see how that goes. Somewhat related to that, Microsoft had released their Magentic Marketplace, which is an open source environment for testing out agent behavior in this sort of sandbox. So if you want to give that a spin, feel free to do so. I've not tried it yet. It was only published 3 days ago. But I think it will be a good way to benchmark how new models independently survive in a marketplace environment. Right now, the researchers have said that with GPT-5 and 4.0 and some of the other models as well, they had to instruct them very clearly for them to be able to do anything in the marketplace. So if we go, 3 months from now, look at the next wave of models that's going to be coming, maybe they'll do differently. But I think this is going to be one of the things that might become a regular benchmark in the future.
Yes, that sounds interesting indeed. We'll be following that progress. But hey, let's move on to the real interesting part in this session. So give floor to Antti Parviainen, and we have some questions for you, Antti, about the work you do and what you have learned in these months with digital workforce and building agents. So Niko, do you want to kick off? I know you had some questions prepared already, and I also have a few in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just start from a sort of very general type of what's it like working in your job and in your team? How has it been being a agent developer for these months here and so on?
Yes, I mean, it's definitely been interesting. The AI world is fast-paced, of course, obviously, as we all know. And for me, I think it's been good that I have a kind of a hobby type of interest also to follow what's going on in the world of Gen AI. So, of course, that helps to keep me up to date. What has changed already during this 7-8 months I've been working here? So even in that short period of time, I think the model performance, for example, for AI assisted coding and so on has kind of improved quite significantly. So that just kind of underlines the fact that things are moving fast and you need to keep yourself up to date. But it's also been really interesting to kind of be in the beginning of building this agent workforce product. So really interesting to kind of have those initial discussions also with clients and also been really nice to see their kind of excitement and interest in the agentic era we now live in.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I was just in last week's episode, I was saying how happy I am with Cursor now that the Claude 4.5 Sonnet is available. The reliability of producing anything there is just it's way different than it was even with GPT-5. And I guess that brings me to another question I wanted to ask. So, how do you use AI in your work? You mentioned the agentic programming, as we say nowadays. Is there anything else, and so on? And what do those tools give you?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. For me, like the daily tools in the AI, definitely it's ChatGPT, it's Cursor. I also use Claude Code, so I use both Cursor and Claude Code in parallel. And also for me, the voice input is really interesting. So I use speech to text tools that utilize LLMs in the background or AI in the background to make it possible to use your voice to turn those into text inputs. That's really important for me because that enables me to input my ideas, for example, in Cursor much faster than I could do with just typing. ChatGPT for me, it's just like makes learning so much faster. I'm curious in learning something new always. So ChatGPT definitely enables me to learn something new every day. So that's really important one for me. And then Cursor and Claude Code. So obviously I use those to for the AI assistance in coding and software development, and they enable us to deliver value more quickly and to experiment what good looks like. And then when we have settled on that, then we can of course bring more human elements in the and human work in the coding. But definitely great tools for experimentation.
Hey, out of curiosity, sorry to jump in, but what are the sources you follow? You keep up, like you said, it's just the way it's your like habit or way of living that you just keep up what's happening. But what are your like sources, top sources, where you go every day to check out what's going on, or what are the podcasts you follow? Or
For me, those are definitely, I think Hacker News is an important one.
Mhm.
Reddit, definitely. And then some of the blogs from the kind of established name in the industry, whether that's the obvious ones like OpenAI or Anthropic or LangChain or some other parties that are active in the AI development or have products in the AI world or stuff like that. So definitely, and of course also those kind of engineering blogs those vendors have are really interesting source for me.
Yeah, and I have some additional questions on the programming side. You mentioned you use the speech to text part. Do you do it in English or have you tried it in Finnish as well?
Ooh, I haven't actually tried it in Finnish. I think I've never tried the speech to text voice input in Finnish in combination with these coding tools. Maybe somewhere else when just giving, voice input in, I don't know, Word or something like that. But definitely should try that out. Would be interesting to see the results, definitely. Maybe I should do that today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a difference on how well the systems pick up different languages, and obviously English is far easier for them than Finnish is. If I look at how some of the tools that we are using, for instance, in online meetings, are working, the Finnish transcriptions are always a bit mixed in terms of quality. But just wanted to ask about that because it would be interesting to hear about it if it works well in Finnish. Maybe I should try it. But the other thing I wanted to ask was you mentioned you use both Claude Code and Cursor. I only use Cursor. I don't have access to Claude Code myself. I don't need it really. But when would you use one and when would you use the other? What's your reasoning for using both?
Yeah, I think Cursor, it's an IDE, so definitely I like the interface. I like the fact that I can, use the right kind of AI assistance for different situations. Like I can use the tab completions, I can use the agent mode and so on. So it gives you certain options and flexibility in terms of that. I definitely like the new planning mode in Cursor. I think that's it has made it better for me to plan things. So I use it now more extensively than before, because it makes the planning phase a bit easier. So then you don't kind of skip it so easily. I think Claude Code, I would say that anecdotally for me and what I've been reading online, usually gives you a bit better performance in terms of pure AI software engineering power, even though you would be using the same model like Sonnet 4.5. Usually I see that Claude Code gives me the right answer a bit more often than or better solution more often than Cursor. But of course it depends, and I think the real power is in the fact that when you kind of hit the wall with one tool, so you have another tool in your back as well that you can then throw at the problem.
Antti, are you familiar with Claude Skills? Have you used that, or do
Yeah,
you know the concept?
I've been
Yeah.
experimenting with those. Definitely, it's an interesting concept, and overall, the way of defining commands, sub agents, and then now the latest feature being the skills, following the same type of pattern where you can define things like new skills in just natural text while mixing it with some scripts and functions. So mixing natural text, natural language, and code to then empower these AI features. So it's really interesting concept, and I think it's a great addition in Claude Code.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've heard so many people say that it's incredible. So
Yeah,
yeah,
of course,
good
it
to
can
hear.
be at times confusing that, okay, how we have these commands in Claude Code, we have the sub agents, now we have the skills.
Projects, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
what's the
it's
difference? Yeah.
sometimes you get maybe a bit confused about that. After all, so I think it all makes sense. So all those have their place in the workflow.
Yeah, and well, I've got one more question I've written down, and you've given a lot of insights already into when you use which tool and so on. But is there anything else that you would maybe like to say and tell the others who are thinking of starting to build their solutions or are going through that right now?
Yeah, I would say that it's very important to focus on the use case and how to solve that. So I think it's a common pitfall to kind of start from the technology perspective. For example, of course, multi-agent orchestration might be the latest and greatest. Everybody's talking about that and the frameworks that enable that kind of interaction between the agents and so on. But it's the wrong place to start. I would definitely keep the focus on the use case and what technology and is needed to solve that. So that's really important, I think. And while we were talking about the Claude Code, so I think one of the most interesting developments in the AI lately has been that Claude Code and Anthropic's agent as SDK has kind of evolved from being just a coding AI assistance tool to being like much more generic agent platform. So even to the point that the name Claude Code is quite problematic, I think currently, because it don't quite capture what is possible to do with Claude Code nowadays. So you can define agents in Claude Code that have nothing to do with the coding or software engineering. They can be marketing, anything really for content writing or whatever. And also when building like agentic solution, I think it's really interesting way that nowadays you can actually initially start by trying to build that solution you have in mind using Claude Code agents or the SDK directly, define those agents and their capabilities in natural text. And if you then find initial success using the Claude Code agents, then you can actually move forward and build a solution using, AI or AI agent frameworks that then take more time to complete that solution. So that might be a interesting workflow to try out.
Mm. And at what point, what can you solve, let's say, with the Claude Code type of AI agents? But when do you need to like take the step further and use like orchestration platforms and all that? So how would you define that?
Yeah, that's, of course, these like actual more code-oriented frameworks, of course, then give you certain type of, structure around when you build like production-ready solutions for certain use cases. So of course, you will need to use those at some point, oftentimes when thinking about, building something for the enterprises, for example. But just the sheer speed of development is much faster when you use Claude Code agents. So it could be worthwhile trying that out, in the initial demo or even proof of concept type of phase. So at least in those phases, even if you would aim for enterprise level agentic solutions, so they might be helpful.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about agent workforce then a little bit. So maybe for those listeners who didn't listen the episode 10, let's just like quickly go through what is agent workforce, the solution for claims agents that we have built and you have built with the team. So could you just on a high level describe what it is and how it works?
Yeah, so agent workforce is a family of AI agents that aims to cover the full journey of an insurance claim for, all the way from the first notification of loss to the settlement and everything in between. So we have defined family of agents that offers something for every step in the claims journey. And also there's like two parts to it. One is this automating the back office operations, claims operations using the AI agents. But then on the other hand, also we aim to disrupt the user experience, how it feels to be insured, how the customer in agentic era interacts and communicates with their insurer. So that's the other part of the equation, so to speak.
Good. So when developing these, it's a multi-agent framework. So there's like the main agent that's routing tasks to other agents and that type of setting. But what has surprised you most when like developing this solution so far?
Yeah, I think when discussing with customers, so it's interesting to see how even though we have like already in the beginning we had defined that we have this family of agents in place. So when discussing with customers, so it tends to be so that new use cases and new kind of agents there could be in the family. So it's always evolving. So it's interesting to see how customers have some great insights that enables us to kind of grow the family. And so that's really interesting part that new things and new use cases still even today, come up quite often. And then we need to kind of see how those fit our family of agents and the additions we should make there.
Mm. Yeah, I've like you also mentioned earlier that since you started building these many months ago, that you've noticed like big change in performance of the new underlying models. That I read it somewhere that if like AI progress were to stop today, which of course it won't stop, but we would still, with just building on top of existing models like Gemini 2.5 or GPT-5, it would be possible to automate like a lot of portions of work and also what we're doing here in terms of claims processes. So the automation would be achieved by focusing on reinforcement learning, which is just like learning these base models on top with the specialized knowledge from that expertise area. So that's exactly what we're also doing here. Any example you could give us from the like performance leap that you've noticed since you started and what you're working on with today? Any use case that comes to your mind?
Definitely. I mean, in this pure software engineering side of this, so like I mentioned in the beginning, I've definitely noticed performance increase when the GPT-5 and Sonnet 4.5 model came out. And of course, that also applies then to the actual insurance use cases. So the sheer power for let's say, for example, comparing some insurance claim against an insurance policy. So definitely the performance has improved greatly over this quite short period of time of half a year or a bit more. So I think it's really interesting when building this AI solution is that if you have a good use case, it's really, I think valuable to try out and just start building that solution. And then if you in the early phases, you kind of end up with the situation that the performance is not for some reason, good enough for a production use case. I mean, it's the real great part in these AI solutions that maybe if you wait, just wait a few months or half a year or something like that. So that could then enable that solution to be brought forward. So I think for that reason, it's important to start building today,
Yes.
because it makes things so much faster when you have some initial building blocks in place when there happens certain type of leap in model performance again. And that then enables you to bring certain solutions to production.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I mean, there are hints and we can also maybe foresee a little bit what's coming out and what the focus areas will be for the labs and what we can expect to get improvement in the future, such as memory, like things that will be improved for sure. All right, maybe a final question from my side, Antti. Can you explain the concept of evals, evaluation in the context of like agent workforce? What is it what do we do? How do we evaluate things?
Yeah, evaluations, definitely. That's that's where the actual, I think the performance fine tuning and the AI engineering really kicks off then when you have the initial solution in place. Let's take an example. Let's take one agent. Petra is the agent in our family that is responsible for matching the insurance claim against the insurance policy and finding out whether the insurance claim is, for example, payable or excluded by the policy. So in that context, we have a custom evaluation pipeline. We use Langfuse for the evaluations currently. So we have defined a test set there for the evaluations. Let's take a couple of examples there. For example, of course, the simple ones when we are running the agent against our test data sets, so we can check whether the expected output, like payable or excluded, whether that matches to the one that the AI provides. And then we can also, compare the reasoning. So the more elaborate answer to the question whether a certain claim is payable or excluded, for example. So we can compare that. But then again, of course, our expected reasoning and the reasoning from the AI model, they cannot match, never exactly. So we need to use an LLM as a judge there. So basically feeding that reasoning, both expected and actual reasoning, back to an LLM for the LLM to then evaluate that how well they align in terms of the actual reasoning. And then also, for example, when the LLM does its like reasoning job, so it should definitely then reference certain parts from the insurance policy, for example, that what are on which parts of the insurance policy it's kind of based its final output on. So we can then check that, for example, do those references, the LLM outputs, do they actually exist in the policy in the first place? And if we have some idea about the expected references, so the direct quotes from the policy that are important for reasoning the specific claim scenario, so we can check whether the ones that the model has picked align with the ones that we have kind of expected it to use, or what a human would use in that type of reasoning. We have many other tests as well, but that's gives you some idea
Examples,
about what we're doing
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
We
that's
could have a
wonderful.
separate episode on that alone.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
Very
think
important area, I
we
think.
could.
Interesting.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. I know you need to run now. You have another call starting in 1 minute. So let's wrap this up for today. But thank you so much for joining, Antti. Thanks for the insights, Niko, again. And have a great weekend
Thank
all.
you
and
very much.
Speak to you soon
Thank
again.
you for inviting me.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.